This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaron. Joining me, as always, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Well, cuz, last week I was in a much more festive mood. This week, it's going to sound a little bit different. We're going to sound a little bit more downtrodden because the state of football in this state of Michigan is atrocious. It's bad across the board. When you look at it, when you have to go down to the ranks of high school sports to talk about good football teams, things are looking bad. Michigan lost to Indiana for the first time since the 80s. Michigan State got waxed at Iowa. They didn't look like they belonged or were prepared. They came back down to earth. Rocky Lombardi looked really bad and was pressing. The Lions, they go to Minnesota and attempt to play something called defense. That was one of, it seems like we've had a lot of those weekends, cuz, where we look at the sports teams, the college teams, and go, what the heck is going on? With Michigan State, they do get a little bit more of a pass, but when you go down to Iowa and play like that, you got to start talking about what's going on in those weeks. After a big win, you got to kind of show that you're prepared. You got to show that you can execute. You don't have to go out and win the game, but you don't have to go out there and get blown out and turn the ball over and not look like you can execute. And that's what's just awful, is that it just seems like what's really weird is that I don't know if these organizations, if Jim Harbaugh, if Matt Patricia, if Mel Tucker surround themselves with realists that tell them, look, man, your defense with Don Brown sucks. You guys can't blitz with these players. You can't run man against this team doing this. You just lost Aiden Hutchinson. We got to revolutionize. We got to change the defense. I wonder if Matt Patricia has anybody that tells him, man, we got no talent. Why are we trying to even stop Dalvin Cook? Why are we just not just stacking the box with 9 guys, 8 guys, and let's just figure it out and let's just make Kirk Cousins beat us? What is going on with these football teams? It seems like they're having these meetings, they're putting together these game plans, but they seem so far off in regards to executing and performing at the level that anybody expects. This weekend was quite embarrassing, cuz.
Oh, if you live in the state of Michigan, you have to hate your life. Yeah. I mean, you have the Michigan State Spartans go out there and they basically get their doors blown off after rolling into Michigan and basically whipping the pants off of Michigan. I mean, at the half, you were down, 35-0? And then if you're Michigan, I mean, you can't fight your way out of a wet paper bag at this point. Like, that game was so far out of hand at certain points, there was no hope for this team. Like, you couldn't stop anybody. Anytime you got within a chance of closing the gap to within a touchdown or even 10 points, Indiana just went out there and put more points on the board, and you couldn't stop them. You couldn't do anything. And then if you're the Lions, I mean, what is left to say about this team? I mean, at some point, something has to be done. Like, if you are Sheila Hamp, like, you have to realize what you've got going on here. This team is abysmal. Like, there was one thing, like, after you seeing what happened in Green Bay, right, with Dalvin Cook just running all over the Packers, you would assume that the Detroit Lions would just be like, cool, so we just have to stop Dalvin Cook. So anything to stop Dalvin Cook, like, I don't care, put a rover on him, put 8 guys in the box, put 9 guys in the box, whatever you have to do. Make Kirk Cousins beat you. Like, what? Play contain. I mean, these are all very simple football things to do to try to stop a running back. You couldn't even get 10. You couldn't even get 11 guys on the field. So even if you did stack the box with 8 guys, you'd only have 2 in the back because you guys can't count to 11. I mean, I feel like we are living through parts of the Jim Caldwell era again, but without the winning. Jim Caldwell at least won games when he was putting 10 guys on the field. You can't get 11 guys on the field regularly. Like, this happens every week. Every week. Like, how do your guys not know what their fit is or what scheme you're running or if they should be even on the field? Like, how do you not know this? This is something that is supposed to happen in high school. Like, you figure this out in high school. And even if that's not the case, if you're a backup player, shouldn't you be engaged enough in the game to know, like, oh, crap, we only have 10 guys on the field. You're a backup cornerback or you're a backup safety. I don't care. Just run out on the field and be the 11th guy. Maybe make a tackle and earn yourself some playing time. I don't know. Just try to help out and save these coaches from looking like idiots because they can't count to 11. The football teams here in the state are absolute garbage, which has us asking the question, who is in a worse spot? And I think you can automatically remove Michigan State. I think you guys have your head coach. I think it was a bit of an aberration what happened with Michigan. You guys showed up, you played, you did a great job. I mean, we've already talked a little bit about the dire straits that Michigan State was left in because of Mark D'Antonio. So I'm not going to hold a whole lot against Mel Tucker this year. I think the fact that you got your doors blown off 49-7, little bit of an indictment on the talent level, a little bit of an indictment on that coaching staff. But all that being said, I'm going to give him a pass this year. I mean, we talked about it before. You said you'd be happy if they won 3 games this year. So I'm going to give Michigan State a pass, and I'm going to remove them from any option that we have here. So it leads me and you to really break down, do the Michigan Wolverines have a worse football situation than the Detroit Lions, or are the Detroit Lions so far gone and so far removed from playing credible, good football that what Michigan is rolling on the field each Saturday here, trying to play this lock-up man coverage with these cornerbacks who basically couldn't cover themselves with a T-shirt, are they playing better football? So I'm gonna turn the tables and put it towards you to start this. Who is in a worse situation, the University of Michigan or the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, if you're a supporter of both, I feel for you. Because
I just want to shoot myself.
Yeah,
by the time Monday rolls around, somebody kick me in the dick, please. It'll just make me feel better.
Absolutely. It just appears as if there's no hope for either. But at this point in time, you do start to get a sense that potentially if Sheila Ford Hemp and ownership actually opens their eyes and figure things out, it seems like the heat is surrounding everybody. It seems like Quinn and Patricia could be relegated to being pushed out the door.
Okay, but hold on one second. What gives you any inclination that she's even awake at the wheel? I mean, her parents weren't awake at the wheel. There was Mr. Ford, and then there was Martha, and now she takes the reins, and she was a driving force in keeping these 2 idiots here. Both of these boobs still have jobs because she went to bat for them. So what gives you any inclination that she's even awake and she's like, oh, yeah, we have a football team, and they're not doing very good? I mean, you're in the room, you're covering it. So I'm legitimately, I'm asking you, I'm not being a sarcastic dick here.
No,
I want to know what makes you think that she's like, yeah, we probably need to make a change.
Well, no, obviously nobody knows because they're so secretive. They're not coming out. But I think the record is going to reflect. Look, there's the potential that there's going to be 16 teams in the NFL playoffs and the Lions won't make it. There's a chance because everyone's like, oh, the schedule is going to be easier. You could lose to Washington. You could lose to Carolina. You could be at Thanksgiving and have a bad performance against Houston. So I think that the heat is surrounding everybody, and the results just aren't there. If playing important games in December is what the onus is, the team could be out of it, and they could not meet any expectations. I mean, do you see the schedule at the end, too? They could really limp into, let's say they get to 500 or 6-6. Those last 4 games are brutal. You will be underdogs in almost all of them. You know, you got to play the Vikings, Bears, Tampa Bay. You're going to play the crux of your schedule later in the year. So it appears that this team is going to be 6-10, 7-9. That's probably where you're going to be at. Now, if you can sell injuries and things like that, there's an opportunity, but there's hope there. At Michigan, I think things are dire because of the investment and what it means. If, Matt Patricia gets blown out, everybody in Detroit is going to rejoice. At Michigan, it does not seem that it's universal among the supporters that Jim Harbaugh needs to go away. While, yes, we are in it and we see all the haters and those that are really anti-Michigan at this moment, and it's growing. I think at this point in time, as of this recording, Jim Harbaugh has the most people that are against him right now. But I still think he has a lot of people that are still in favor of the stuff that's going on. And it's so torn because Michigan has a strong attachment to this figure. Jim Harbaugh, a quarterback that created great memories. This is a guy that was supposed to be the savior, somebody that is a Michigan man, the embodiment of what everybody wants. So how do you broom him out? And what do you say to him because of the fact that he's got such a strong tie? It literally would be like if Barry Sanders was coaching and the love that everybody had, and you just broom him out, and he stinks. Michigan has a stronger attachment, so there's a big problem in that. Jim Harbaugh also has a record of 9-10 wins. The problem is that he's not meeting the top end goals. So Michigan, I think, situation is a lot more complicated and a lot more messy. And I think it is what it is. I don't think any movement at Michigan is going to happen. Whereas I see Lions have more of a chance of getting what we want. Michigan, because I think you're stuck. I think that you get 6 wins, 7 wins out of this group. You get some wins, but you don't play well against Ohio State. I still think that the odds-on favorite is that Jim Harbaugh comes back. I don't think that because the heat surrounding him, if Ward Manuel's your boss and you got a great relationship with the boss, he's not going to fire him. If Jim Harbaugh wants to, now the only thing you guys as supporters can hope for is if Jim Harbaugh says, you know what, I'm burnt the hell out, I can't do this anymore, and he decides to turn the ship around and just go home. That's the only hope you have because they're not firing him. I think they're going to offer him an extension, maybe the same amount of money, not too much of a raise, but I don't think that Michigan's going to blow unless the bottom completely falls out and you lose a lot more games starting with Wisconsin. If it happens, I think Michigan's situation is way more complicated and the hope is not there as much as potentially it could be for the Lions.
I mean, I don't think that Michigan is going to fire Harbaugh. I don't think it'll be, at least it won't come across that way to everybody else. It'll be one of those things where it's a mutual parting of the ways, where we've had discussions and Jim's going to go pursue other opportunities. But I think if you don't get a win this week against Wisconsin, I could see things really taking a dramatic change, and I could really see Jim Harbaugh possibly being asked to leave the university. I mean, this was one of those games where I didn't think they had a chance to win this game when we were kind of looking at the schedule, but you will now have lost 3 games in a row, and it looks like it could get a whole lot worse as the season progresses. If you lose this game, I don't think there's any chance you have even there's a shadow of a doubt that you're going to beat Ohio State. So you're looking at possibly a 4-4 record for this season. I don't know how you come back from that. I don't know if Jim Harbaugh can come back from that. I'm not so steadfast that Jim is going to be here forever. Looking at the last 2 press conferences after both of these games, he looks completely befuddled. He looks totally lost. Like he doesn't have any answers. And I think what happens is when you get to that point as a coach where you just don't have answers for what the hell is going on the field and why you can't get more out of the talent that you have, I think at that point it's kind of the white flag waving, and you're like, I think I have to get out of. I think I've got to leave here. Now, as far as the Lions go, I already brought it up. I don't know if Sheila Hamp's awake. I don't know if Sheila Hamp is willing to make that move. We all want that move, but I don't know if she's willing to make that move. And I think that she believes enough in Bob Quinn that if he's like, hey, it's a COVID year, we didn't have enough time to do things properly, this, that, the other thing, I think she might be able to be persuaded. And that's what scares me the most because I don't think Matt Patricia knows what he's doing. I mean, I'm tired of his press conferences. I don't know how the hell you stay awake during these things because we really should have Matt Patricia bingo every single Monday after a football game where we just put up a makeshift card on the Twitter and basically you just follow along and we just see how long it takes to get to a bingo because he says the same things. I've got to coach better. Guys are doing the good work. We just got to kind of dial things back a little bit. I mean, at this point, this man has basically taken his playbook and has ripped so many pages out of it to try to dial that playbook back and simplify it for these guys that I'm not sure that there is much more than basically 3 sheets of a Post-it note left in this playbook because he has taken so much off of it or so much out of it because he just tells you every week, we just got to dial it back a little bit more. The guys are playing hard. I just got to coach better. We got to play better. We got to work through these things. Like, what the hell are we working through? This is year 3. But these are all your guys.
No, actually,
like everybody on this roster.
On Wednesday,
none of these guys were here when you took over. These are all your dudes.
On Wednesday,
what are we doing?
On Wednesday, he was asked in a roundabout way, why do you act like that? And unfortunately, can you blame him? Look who he got mentored by. So we have to take a look at, while we want it to be different, he was mentored by Bill Belichick. It's his idol. This is a guy that he reveres like a father figure. This is a guy he had the ultimate success with at the highest level. So if that's your teacher, I look, do I like it? No. Does it make you roll your eyes? Yeah. Is it not personable? Absolutely not. You can't relate. You obviously get a lot of information about the other team. You get nothing but positivity about the Lions. It's fine. I get why you do it because you just keep it very surface. You keep it in generics, in coach speak. You don't want to give a bunch of press clippings. And potentially, you don't know what the ownership is telling him to say or what Bob Quinn, also what they want to do and how they want to operate in regards to the media. They don't need the media to be pumping out quotes. They just want to handle their business, cash their checks, and try to move forward. So I don't blame them for that. It is grating to hear 4 days a week of that, but I probably would be different if it was me. But you get in trouble for that because things can get twisted. The media can use quotes in ways that potentially will make things negative. So I get why he does it. But I think that I would be a little bit more forceful in that I'd be open with the players and say, look, if you stink it up, if we got 10 men on the field, I'm going to go out there and say, Corey cannot have that happen. I would be a little bit more forceful and say, look, we made so many arm tackles and it's unacceptable. I'd be real because it's just football. And yeah, it reflects badly, but when you put 10 men on the football field, that's on Corey Onlin, that's on Matt Patricia. You got to own it. So I would be a little bit more anti-player in the media. I'd be like, look, you play well, you get the credit. You play bad, I'm going to call you out, period. And it's open, it's honest, and it's more real. Like, look, even though Everson Griffin was all hype, his media session was cool in that he's like, oh, you call me a good player, I'm going to go prove you wrong. Now, it sounds stupid 5 days later when you play bad and don't record any stats, but it was cool. It was cool to see because he had energy. Whereas after 3 years of we got to coach better and you got to coach better, you got to execute better, you got to be more consistent. Well, when you get dismissed, the headline's going to be pretty straightforward. What's going to happen? So it goes both ways. I get it. I know why they do it. It's political correctness at the coach level. He was taught to do that, and that's what he's going to execute come hell or high water. And that's fine, but it doesn't make you personable. It doesn't give you support among the supporters who are ready to kick your ass out. So that's just what's going to happen. When you act like that, you turn off your supporters. So
next time you're in a press conference, can you ask him if there are any type of rocket science equations that will help him count to 11, so that way he can make sure he has enough guys on the field.
Bad coaching. They're like, Corey's like, bad coaching, man. It's bad coaching. I failed. Bad coaching. Yeah, no shit, bad coaching. Can you count to 11? Please. So, because that was so bad. How do you not get – I mean, you know how many jokes we told when Jim Caldwell couldn't get 11 guys on the field? Now we repeat it in back-to-back weeks? That's unheard of.
It's nuts. I mean, like the worst part is on the one specific play where he had 10 guys, Dalvin Cook went for a 70-yard run.
Yeah, it killed you.
Like, I mean, I'll be honest with you, if you had an 11th guy, maybe you hold him to 50. But like, still, man, it just highlights and shines a brighter spotlight on your ineptitude when you have a guy just bulldozing your entire team and pushing them around the field at will. Like, he is a grown-ass man playing with small children on a playground. And your one job going into this game was to stop that one man with all of your force, all of your might, all of your weapons, and you couldn't do it. Is there anybody? So either Jim Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh's staff or Matt Patricia and Matt Patricia's staff, is there anybody, either one of these situations or either one of these programs, do you see them more likely to make an in-season change?
Ooh, in season it would be Matt Patricia. If things are bad by Thanksgiving, the organization has done it in the past. I could see that. Anybody else? No, I don't think so. Harbaugh will finish it out. Everybody else will. Only Matt Patricia could have the potential of being dismissed, but I don't think so either. I think that there's going to be a couple wins there, starting with maybe this week against Washington, who's going to be bringing in Alex Smith. He hasn't been, a starter in forever, and he's coming off of a severe injury, so a heroic tale there. Their offense, the Washington football team's offense, is in disarray. That defense could do some damage against the Lions, but I see a victory there. I see a chance, at least an opportunity to play at home and get the victory over a team that, obviously losing your top-end quarterback is going to be really detrimental. So I see a chance there. Carolina will be a loss, and then it'll be off to the races to see how they respond on Thanksgiving, because that Houston game might be the referendum game. Got to win against Houston. You let Deshaun Watson handle his business on national television in front of everybody, you got to kind of hope, if you want this regime to get blown out, that Deshaun has himself a lovely day and puts the hurting on the line. That's what you got to hope for, is just basically one win in the next couple weeks.
It'd be like Mooch all over again.
Yep,
showing
exactly.
up for his post-Thanksgiving presser and being escorted out briefly.
And then, cuz what hurts the biggest, most ultimate dagger to supporters is now you're starting to see national columnists write about it. You're starting to see the wave of like, the Lions could have drafted Tua. And Tua's got the team 5-3. Tua's making some badass throws. Tua's playing well. Tua looks like a guy that, when all said and done, might be the quarterback that could lead Miami to the playoffs in his rookie season. Justin Herbert is making throws. National media is like, why did the Lions in a must-win year draft a cornerback? What the hell are you doing? So when Dan Wetzel writes it, people go, when we say it, we're like, okay, yeah, Okudah will develop and Okudah blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, people know it's okay. Our record is there on Doc and Jock and at SI All Lions. We said that draft pick doesn't make any sense. After week 1, we said, a cornerback, really? In a must-win year, you could have went better by getting a defender that would play more. And it's not to say that Okudah is terrible. It's just the value of the selection. And now, cuz, we really can open the discussion. It's not too soon. Tua's playing well. He's got a system and a defense that's going to suit him. They surrounded him with a little bit of talent so that he can perform. Matthew Stafford, his reign in Detroit, not only will have negatively affected the 12 years, 13 years he's here, but because of the blind loyalty that the organization gave to him, and like I said, I'm going to definitely find a way to get Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia liquored up with the top-end bourbon, and I'm going to ask them, you guys were told by the big boss to keep him. There's no way your eyes told you to keep this man and to shower him with money. You were placating to your boss because you guys saw Tom Brady. If your eyes saw it and told you that this guy was going to lead you to the promised land, I'm going to tell you, get the hell out of here. Then your job title was worth nothing because no talent evaluator worth a darn would have kept Matthew Stafford. He's not a winner, period. Good quarterback. This guy's not a winner, not a championship-level winner, period. And I just think they took the money, so I will not, that's my honest assessment, I will not begrudge those two because of the fact that the ownership loves them, Matthew Stafford, because Matthew Stafford's reign in Detroit, whether it be 12, 13, 14, 15 years, will not only have affected the past, the present, but now he will single-handedly have fucked up the future. Period. You could have missed out on quarterbacks. Yeah. You're now a team that's going to be 7-9. You're going to draft 15th. You really think that the fourth quarterback off the board is going to turn your tides around? When do you have the number 3 pick? How often are you going to get that opportunity to have a number 3 pick with 2 quarterbacks that are playing well, that are actually going to play each other at 4 o'clock this Sunday? Watch it.
I mean, you can go back. You can go back to a couple of Bob Quinn's drafts. I mean, you go back as far, you just go back as far as the Hawkinson draft, right? You could have had a stud interior defensive lineman who could play inside, outside, and you could have had a corner in who I think it was like Greedy Williams was available at the start of that second round. So I mean, you could have like upgraded your defense, which is obviously a big problem on this team right now. Or you could have had a linebacker like Devin Bush, and we talked about how bad the linebackers were post or pre-show, and you could have had a guy like Irv Smith who just ran a train on you this past Sunday. So I mean, you can go back as far as that. I mean, you don't even have to go back to last year's draft, but last year's draft, yeah, you're right. It's not every single season you get the opportunity to draft that high and to be able to take a franchise QB, and you had 2 of them staring you in the face. And you went with a cornerback. And I'm not going to say like a cornerback's a bad selection, right? It's a bad selection at number 3, okay? Especially when you have a quarterback who's coming off of back-to-back years where he's got a beat-up back. You have a quarterback who is nearing the end of a contract. You have a quarterback who, let's be frank, he hasn't won you anything. I mean, you can look at Phillip Rivers, right? Phillip Rivers and I think Matt Stafford are a perfect comparison for each other. These are 2 guys who spent their lifetime in an organization. Phillip Rivers, obviously, with the Chargers, Matt Stafford with the Lions. They never won a Super Bowl, and they have like 9,000 kids. If you put them together, they basically have their own football team because all they do is they hump, apparently. Hump and dump, just filling their cum dumpster wives up with all the baby batter. But you can look at a guy like Phillip Rivers, and he at least got you, I think 4, maybe 5 playoff wins? Whereas a guy like Matt Stafford has gotten you there twice and has failed to deliver. Couldn't get you over the hump. And in those games, he was part of the problem. He wasn't the answer to the solution. He was part of the issue. I'm not going to put it all on him why they didn't win those playoff games, but there were times where he had the ball in his hands and he needed to come up clutch, and he shrunk from that spotlight. I mean, you could have, and look, the whole thing with Tua was to bring him in, give him a little bit of time, and just kind of sit him for a year. That was the game plan. Instead, Miami's like, nah, you know what? We're cool. We're going to come off our bye, and he's going to start for us. It's going to be great. And the guy has led them to 2 wins. Now, the first one, I don't think he played a major part in it. He threw a touchdown, and that defense really helped win them that game. I think the second one, he was much more involved in that win, and you're seeing some growth here. You're seeing some development from a very young player. Like, it's way early to say that Tua is the real deal, just like it's way early to say Jeff Okudah is a complete bust. But if you're a fan of Tua and you're a Miami Dolphins fan, you've got to be pleasantly surprised with what you're seeing. And if you're a Lions fan, you kind of feel like this is what could have been, what probably should have been, and now what isn't. So I get it, man. I get it. It's frustrating. Frustrating as all hell. It's absolutely brutal.
And they play each other. Herbert versus Tua, Sunday 4 after the Lions. Could you imagine the perfect storm that might elevate everything is if Stafford plays bad and the Lions lose to the Washington football team, which they did do last year. Remember that Haskins didn't even bother to finish the game. He's all taking selfies, but that was on the road. This will be at Ford Field. New head coach, Ron Rivera, so it'll be a interesting setup there and scenario in regards to how this game shakes out. I think it's going to be a tight game. So and then imagine if Tua and Herbert light it up against each other and they're just zinging touchdown passes. That would be the worst thing ever. The fans are on edge. They're not happy. They're done. I mean, that defense, the performance is bad. And then when you make mistakes like that, this team is not happy. The fan base is not happy. The team is not happy. And it's really teetering. It's teetering on the edge of collapsing. And unfortunately, when you look at it, it's just everything. Not enough talent, poor coaching, poor execution, and unfortunately, just look at it across the board. All right, and I look. I'll be honest. I get caught up in the hype. I get caught up in, we got Everson Griffin and he wants to dominate. And I literally thought he would perform, maybe hit Kirk Cousins and maybe force a fumble. Bro, he didn't do jack. He didn't do nothing. He was all hype. He just made a video that got us excited. That's all he did. It was all hype. Dude's 32 years old. Objectively, you know that, okay, he's not going to replace Trey Flowers. You know that when Trey Flowers goes down, Kenny Galladay goes down, Matthew Stafford's having family problems, and he's got to deal with. We don't want to talk bad about it, but you know his wife is like, I got nobody to help. Come home. Bro, I heard that story. I know that story. I had that happen to me. You know, I'm working long hours, and you're trying to cover a team, you're trying to edit a couple podcasts, you're trying to write letters for clients, and then you got your wife like, the kids are driving me crazy. They're not listening. And I'm like, we'll handle it. What are you telling me for? I'm 25 minutes away. I got this to do and that to do and that. Oh, help, you never help. You're never around. You don't do that. I was like, well, I have 3 jobs and I'm trying to do them all at a high level to keep this nice train going of what we got going on. So I can't be there to help the kids not eat the Halloween candy. So please just hide the Halloween candy so that they don't eat it and leave all the wrappers around. Step up a little bit. Heaven forbid you say that. You get your head chewed off. So then you start writing, and then you go, oh, shit, I just called the Lions head coach Ron Rivera. Fuck, and I just published that. You know, it happened. So to expect that Matthew Stafford was away from his family, had a major family issue go down, and I love the fact that people were like, that's not a family issue. When it involves your kids, it's a family issue. You know, I didn't go into detail for a reason. I do respect the man's privacy. Obviously, his wife, and people were so funny last week. People were like, how could you call this a family issue when it's involving his kids? And it's like, well, you know what I'm talking about, so I don't have to go into specifics. So I had to preface it, but people trying to argue semantics with me is at the height of ridiculous, okay? Because I understand. I know that you guys know and follow Kelly Stafford, and you knew what was going on. It's a family issue. And I asked the best question in that because I could make an argument maybe the Lions should have just let him go home. I mean, dude, he's away from his family. You have professed to be this franchise that cares about your players. Dude had a situation that was quite serious based on what was being reported, and he was close. He was driving home. If I get that message, I'm Bob Quinn. I'm like, you know what? No Trey Flowers, No Kenny Galladay. Let the dude go home, break quarantine for a couple days. Let him enjoy some family time. Let him have another bye week. Maybe he'll play better. So I made that argument, and I asked, quite frankly, the question that nobody asked. Like, dude, if you're Matt Stafford, why would you even go play? Why? Just go home. Spend time with your family. You're quarantined. It's not worth it. You know, the NFL's got you locked down. It's not worth it. I would have broke quarantine in 5 seconds. I mean, like, what? That happened? I'm coming home. And his play reflected it. I don't give him a lot of credit for the 16 straight completions because it was all dink and dunk. And when the time came and he had to perform, he threw interceptions. He wasn't exactly where he needed to be in the right headspace. So I think the Lions made a mistake in letting him play.
I don't know if look, you've seen what happened when Chase Daniels got in the game. It wasn't very good. Like that organization.
This was a schedule loss because of injury. You could have took it that way. You could just let Chase Daniel get through the week, recoup, try to get as many healthy players back. That was going to be a loss. With no Trey Flowers and no Kenny Galladay, what was Stafford going to do? You risk Stafford. He almost got a concussion. You know, that offensive line almost got him killed. So I would have let him just because knowing the story that how it was told, the dude was driving home. He was probably within 5 minutes of being there, and they were like, oh, no. And when he said it's a long story, that means it was back and forth. The wife was trying to contact anybody to help, and he's on his way.
Didn't one of the kids just like fall down?
And got a concussion. It fell on her head and got a concussion. It was serious.
She's so bad at being a mom, she can't even pay attention to her kids. And like when the kid falls down, like, bro, don't even get me started on Kelly Stafford. She is like the freaking worst. Okay, let's just save ourselves because I'm gonna piss a lot of people off here.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I can't stand that.
Yeah, let's keep it to Stafford and the organization. I think put Stafford at risk in a weird headspace. It's like for those that are like, oh, he had a tough week, wins and losses, production, non-production. Everybody has shit to deal with. We all do. And in the game of football, it's wins and losses. Did you make the throw? Did you not make the throw? That throw to that linebacker that I'm featuring in all my videos this week was horrible. He threw it right to the linebacker. That's a rookie mistake.
Could that just be because, I don't know, maybe he's not very good anymore. Maybe he's at the end of his career. I mean, if you look at some of his passes, they're usually a little bit late. He's got guys in stride and he throws behind them. He basically kills most of his receivers when he throws them into coverage and then they get annihilated. Or he just, I don't know, doesn't see a linebacker or I don't know, just doesn't see somebody in the secondary and he's throwing a pick. I mean, I just think we're coming to the end of this guy's career. And the thing is, it's just getting expedited because he's on a team that I don't want to say is devoid of talent, but he's on a team where it isn't clicking. A lot of times you can hide a guy's shortcomings, especially your quarterback, but you don't utilize your run game very well. Your offensive line is in complete disarray. You have a wide receiver who wants a contract, and he's not playing right now because he's got a hip injury. You've got other guys who, I mean, aren't at his level. So I just think you're basically seeing the cracks in the foundation, and it won't be too much longer before this thing just implodes on itself, which is why you should have drafted Tua.
Yes, exactly. And that's where to harken back to what I said, having Stafford on this roster hurts your past, present, and now it's going to affect your future because you have no choice but to give him a couple more years, and it's still going to take another couple years to develop anybody. So it's unfortunate. It's really bad. You've put yourself really right square in the middle where you're not bad enough to get a high pick. You're not good enough to get to the playoffs and win. And so this is the height of what, columnists are saying. This is bad roster management. This is not how you want to do. This is not how you want to move forward with your organization. Either you identify you're a winner and move forward and go all in with talented individuals. I mean, you could have had young talent. You go out and get a 32-year-old. And look, and what I was saying was your backup to Kenny Galladay is Marvin Jones Jr., plus 30. Danny Amendola, who's now suddenly having issues with drops. Those are your wide receivers. When you drafted Quintez Cephas, yeah, you gave him a little bit of love, but he should have been out there and gotten the majority of the snaps. He should have had at least 50 snaps. Go check out SIL lines. We document the snap counts. He had a lot of targets, but then this week, not as much. TJ Hawkinson, we expected that he was going to get at least a double digits in targets. Didn't happen. So, and Darrell Bevell talked about it. The Vikings played too high safety, and they limited all the deep plays, so that's why all the dink and dunk was available. But here's the biggest problem. If your offensive line's not going to block and let you guys run, if you got weren't you just a little bit jealous, cuz, that you saw Dalvin Cook, and you're like, man, why couldn't DeAndre Swift look like that? Why does he look like a 1/2 step slower version of Dalvin Cook? Why are the Lions players like a 1/2 step version of real players? Didn't you not think that and go, man,
yeah.
Why is Matthew Stafford like 1/2 version of a real quarterback? Why is Jelani Tavai so slow and can't make a tackle? And the play that pissed me off the most, and it sucked because it was nice weather, but I can share with you, I was not in Minnesota. I covered the game from my home. I went outside. I listened to it on the radio. I didn't watch it until after. I didn't rewind it and get into it visually until after the game on the NFL Game Pass. I listened to the game on the radio, and boy, was it a fun experience to use your imagination and to write and to cover it. It was great. I might do that again on road games, is just to get in a visual space and try to imagine it. But if I had watched that, if I had sat down and saw what Dalvin Cook did to Jamie Collins, I would have probably broke the TV. I would have been that mad that you can't keep your feet moving, power through, and tackle the man, not get juked out and look like a fool. Yeah, Dalvin Cook is talented, but you got to keep your feet moving and you got to run through the tackle. So when Matt Patricia talks about fundamentals and that's what's displayed out there, that makes you look like a fool. Because fundamentally, everybody should have known you got to wrap the man up. No arm tackles. Power through. Keep your feet moving. Dude, Jamie Collins got his ass stuck in the mud and Dalvin Cook was off to the races on multiple occasions. So it was embarrassing. And so with this roster that's been constructed for this Detroit team, it's not good enough. It's old and overpaid. And that's what you went with as all in? I mean, all in would mean Jamal Adams, sacrifice. It's like, you're like, oh, I'm going to go all in. But with the least productive version out there, I mean, if you're going to go all in, it's Jamal Adams. Give away some draft picks. You got 5, now you got 2. Give away, for if it's win now, I'm going after Jamal Adams, Keenan Williams. Bro, I'm going after Antonio Brown. I'm going after anybody that can win.
You had $30 million in cap space. You still have, I think, roughly $27 million in cap space. I mean, you want to talk about going all in, you could have brought some big-name free agents in who could have performed for you. Instead, you went out and you brought in Jamie Collins' old ass. Come on.
Exactly. Jamie Collins and Reggie Ragland. Those are the guys. If you get cut from the Chiefs and move on, and the Patriots move on from you, you don't belong here. You're grabbing guys that people don't want. And you're expecting that's your win now edict. These are the guys you wanted to coach. That really is sick. That, when these guys start talking, they have to be asked, you really went down with older veterans that you wanted to coach, scheme over talent? What on earth possessed you to think that, their ego probably is so big that they believe they can coach these guys to win? They're not talented enough. It's quite obvious. The film don't lie. Everybody's watching it. I put out a post about the linebackers, and some dude I've never heard of, Jay Jarvis Rocker, sent me a tweet with film. Jay Jarvis Rocker is probably watching more film than I am. Everybody sees it. You can't fool people anymore. It's available. Everybody that wants to pay $100, Adam pays it. Everybody that's a fan watches the film. And look what he wrote. They are too tired to do anything because of all the time they spend faking blitzes and then having to run back and find their man. Everybody can see it's not rocket science. They can see that your guys are big and slow and your opponents are fast and slick and your old asses can't keep up. And then when you do make a play, Desmond Trufant's going to grab his hamstring and limp off the field because his old ass is time to retire. And you gave him $10 million. And Jamie Collins. Big money deals that involve tens of millions of dollars should go to guys in their 20s, 25 to 30, and that's it in a win-now mode. But this is the mistake that they made. This is what they're doing. This is why they're going to finish 6-10, 7-9, and they're going to get blown out. It's not, and even with 16 teams, if they get in, they're going to get embarrassed. Seattle would work them to death. Could you imagine how many picks Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs, how excited they would be to play the Lions if they went out there? Good God. And I think the one thing that the fans should be thankful for is you don't got to watch this. I got to go watch it. I got to sit there and go, damn, 10 men on the field. Special teams. That's what we got to talk about. One last thing, though. I got to address this. All right? You fans out there that are clamoring for a young Braden Coombs to be the head coach, it's cute. It's lovely. And I really want you to, when you read my tweets, ask yourself this question, okay? Don't just assume, okay, John's a dick. Ask yourself.
Oh, no, John is a dick.
Yes.
But
move on from that and then realize, what is he really saying? Okay? So my tweet on Tuesday was, things are so funny right now with the Lions that the supporters want the special teams coach to coach them with no head coaching experience. The meaning of that is not whether I agree with it or whether I don't agree with it, but we are at this point where you guys are so desperate that the guy that can orchestrate a fake punt a couple weeks in a row, you want to give him the keys. That's the state of the Detroit Lions, and it's funny. Hell, I would even do it, okay? So for all of you that said it, hell, it's that desperate, I would even do it too. Who cares who's coaching this team? The talent's not there. You and I could coach this team and probably give up 40 points a game. Go look at everything we've talked about. Go look at Google, sit your ass down, stop eating and drinking, sit your ass down and Google Detroit Lions results. They're losing, but they're giving up an average of 30 points or more in losses. There's nothing going forward that this team to hang your hat on that's going to be positive. So if you want Braden Coombs, have at it. Let the poor man have a career. Let him go somewhere else to start his coaching career, because Detroit is the city where football dreams come to die. The state of Michigan is becoming a place where football hopes and dreams come to die. So unfortunately, that's where it's at. We weren't as happy and positive this week, but we laid down the truth, and that's just the way it is. Right?
That's it, man. I mean, like, I think that just kind of shows you what kind of dire straits we're in right now.
Exactly.
Where everybody is so excited for a special teams coordinator who looks like he's 20, like he would get ID'd at the bar. I think he's 30, 33?
Young guy, exactly.
He's a young dude. He's got very limited NFL coaching experience, much less any head coach experience. And yet you want to bring him in because the coach that you have here is just so damn bad. And here's the thing too. So let's say you do blow out Patricia and Braden Coombs gets a couple wins and this team all of a sudden looks a little bit better. Is that the guy that you want to basically run your football team next year? Because I could see Sheila being like, well, he did get a couple wins, so, maybe we should give him the keys to the Corvette and let's see what he does. Hopefully he doesn't wrap it around a tree like these two guys did. I don't know if that's the way to go. I don't know if that's the right direction for this team. At some point it's all going to have to get blown up. I want Patricia to go down. I want Bob Quinn to go down with all of it. And I want to start over. And I think they missed a prime opportunity last year when they could have went out, got that quarterback of the future, and you could have kind of started to jumpstart this just a little bit. And you could have possibly traded Matt Stafford at some point this year to get, I don't know, another first round pick, because I think here's the thing. I think Stafford, especially in everybody else's estimation, not so much people from Detroit or Lions fans, but I think everybody else sees a really good quarterback. And I think Matt Stafford is a pretty good quarterback. I just don't think it works here. And I think here we're ready to move on. We're ready to try something new, because it's been 14 years?
Whew.
And it's time. It is time for a parting of the ways. It's like being in a really bad relationship and you just sometimes hit that point and it's time to go. It's time to move on.
That's just
I think that's where we're at.
That's where we're at. Make sure to follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. We greatly appreciate all the support. It means a lot to us to see the subscriber numbers. It means a lot to us when other podcasters reach out and say, hey, what'd you guys do to do this? Or how long you been at it? Oh, you've been at it since 2013. Oh, I enjoyed it. Oh, it sounds like you guys have a good time. Hell yeah, we have a good time. It's the highlight of our week. Sitting here doing our own thing and being able to talk Detroit sports is a dream. And it's because you guys support us. Make sure to check out Detroit Sports Podcast anywhere your favorite podcast is located. Look for great interviews. Adam does 2 other podcasts that are amazing, The Practice Squad, and soon to be returning, maybe in a couple weeks, is The Throwback, where they go back and relive nightmare scenarios from the Detroit Lions with Brendan Riley, a good show. The Practice Squad is really good and entertaining. They share a lot of information. I've learned a lot about Adam, even more, maybe some things I don't want to know, but The Practice Squad.
Probably way too much.
Yeah, probably way too much. Thank you guys for your support. Make sure to download the latest edition of Doc and Jock next week.